he's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs on.
Good evening, afternoon, wherever you are, everyone. Welcome to Moving the Chains here on Team NBS Media. We have a ton of games to talk about from week 2, and I want to recap some of the things we said in our week 1 show because we said a lot of things that did not go correctly. So, again, I'm joined with two of the best, Jeff and Joe. Happy Wednesday. How are you doing?
Doing good. Wednesday.
Once again, it's always great to share the air with you guys.
Okay, if you hear cool sound effects, it's part of the show, baby. We are rolling with it. I feel like the best way to kick things off is with a nice Danny Dimes comeback game. And we spoke highly of him in week 1. We were talking about how this is his year. He's going to make things happen. Everything's going to be rah Giants. That game was absurd. I mean, just to come back from being down that deficit that high, first time in 90 years for the Giants franchise. I think it was unreal. I was really hoping the Giants would have won in a reverse fashion. But tell me, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think to win that kind of in that fashion, especially on the road, was definitely tremendous. And I think the only bad thing I'd say if I was a Giants fan is, of course, the injury to Saquon Barkley. This is a guy that really wanted his money, and I think it kind of further shows that running backs deserve guaranteed contracts because you never know. I mean, you could probably say that about every player in the NFL, that you never know what play could be your last play. But when it comes to running backs, we've seen it early on in this season. Unfortunately, the injuries come to them pretty quickly. But I think if you're a Giants fan, to come back after that beatdown you took from Dallas, to come back on the road and win against the Cardinals was a very good to set the season off and kind of bounce back and right the ship a little bit.
60-0. In the first 6 quarters of the season, they were outscored 60-0. You come back and still win the game. Was it great for the Giants? Absolutely. But it's more catastrophic for the Cardinals, right? You go out there, you give up the lead to Washington week 1. You give up a 20-plus point lead to the Giants in week 2. And then you get this Dallas team that's a juggernaut coming to you week 3. You needed this win very bad. And unfortunately for them, they've blown 2 games in a row. I must admit, listen, it's great for the Giants, but, the caveat of it all is, yes, Saquon Barkley's out. One of the guys that was the catalyst of that resurgence, that second half resurgence. So you have to be happy that you're not 0-2 in a division where everybody else is 2-0. But another mountain to climb going into week 3 with the injury to Saquon Barkley.
I feel like as a Cardinals spectator, I'll call us all that, these are 2 games for a team that is supposed to be tanking for a QB. That feels kind of good. I'm not disappointed. James Conner's looking better, somebody that kind of struggles with health issues. I feel like if the outcome is not going to be a win for Cardinals all season, I feel like whenever they win their 4 games, Cardinals fans are going to be excited. But until that happens, every progression offensively, every amazing play, Joshua Dobbs just doing amazing things. I feel like that whole game, the entire first half, I thought Daniel Jones got paid for nothing. I don't understand how he's down at halftime. It doesn't make any sense. The math ain't mathin', as the children say. And I feel like that entire sequence, like coming back in the second half, Daniel Jones having his own rushing touchdown. There's pros for Giants fans. They'll figure it out. It's going to be a long game, every single game. And there's pros for the Cardinals fans because watching a team that's supposed to be getting demolished has put in 2 great weeks. And I feel like it's still fun football, right? You're not watching week 1 where the Giants scored absolutely 0 points. That's kind of football you don't want to watch. And this one felt competitive, as it should be. It's still the NFL. So
Yeah, I have no idea what the Arizona Cardinals are doing, what their game plan is. I mean, you can say Kyler Murray's injured, obviously, waiting for Kyler to come back. He's the leader of your team. But even when he comes back, like you said, Ashmere, I saw bits and pieces, things that make me excited if I was a Cardinals fan, but nothing that would make me think that when we get Kyler back, we're going to be in the thick of things. I don't think you should have those thoughts at all. If you're a Cardinals fan, you might be thinking about Caleb Williams or Drake May or somebody else being on the next.
Well, you mentioned it before we went on the air, Joe. Josh Dobbs is playing amazing football for a guy who
yes.
nobody thought would be starting in the NFL, more or less being a full-time backup. You know, to come out the first two games, to take the fight to Washington, to come out this game, take a 20-plus point lead on the Giants. Josh Dobbs is playing well. He's giving that team a chance. So kudos to that with the Cardinals believing in Josh Dobbs, believing that they can go out there and win with this guy. But where's this Cardinals defense, right? We talk about the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
We say, well, one thing we thought would have been was improving, even after they got rid of Isaiah Williams, was the defense, right? The defense is playing better. 2 weeks in a row, their defense has collapsed. I mean, dreadfully collapsed. I mean, this is if we didn't have bigger leads squandered in the past, this would have been a historic collapse. To go up 27-6, I think it was at one point, and then blow it. Right, just straight blow it. That's unfortunately that is a tragedy within itself. Right now, you have to look around that locker room and go, okay, offensively, we're playing above our heads. But defensively, we got to find a way to close out.
And that day may come, it may not come. But as we're all agreeing here, we're not hoping for the Cardinals to win that division, of course. But progression is positive progression in my eyes. And I think it was fun to watch. We're in a Survivor League with all my friends. And once you pick your team, right, it's eliminated. I picked the Giants. I swear to you, I was holding my breath the entire afternoon because I did not want to be kicked out of the Survivor pool. And somehow we won. And I just thought, thank God I don't have to pick the Giants ever again to win a game. So I did my due part in believing in Danny Dimes. Let's move on to another team, two teams that were just as exciting, a little less exciting if you're a Packers fan. Packers and Falcons. I definitely feel like Jordan Love owned this game the entire first half and then just fell apart. So please enlighten me on your thoughts and how do you bounce back if you're Jay Love, Jeff?
I think you keep doing what you're doing. He had a rougher second half than he did the first. He got off to a hot start. At points with young quarterbacks, they're going to run hot and cold. What you needed was the Packers running game to kind of help them out in the second half, not having Aaron Jones, big problem. So I think that's where you look at where the Packers kind of fell short in the second half was they got the lead, they got ahead, and they weren't able to kind of get that time of possession, run the ball, kill the clock, to kind of keep that lead and maintain the momentum. Once the Falcons started getting back into it, let's face it, this Atlanta Falcons offense is going to be very exciting once all of the pieces come together. Right now, we're just seeing the bits and pieces of it all. A couple of plays here, a couple of plays here. Once you get this all together, once Desmond Ridder fully blooms into the starter he's going to be, once you get more and more of those two running backs, Algier and, of course, RB1. I mean, what can you say about him? Kyle Pitts, fully healthy, coming back. Young wide receiver for USC. All of that's coming together. And it's still a pot that's brewing. It hasn't fully cooked yet. So that stew is going to be wonderful once it's fully done. But got to give credit to the Packers. Like I said, they miss Aaron Jones because he would have made a big difference in the second half. But that Falcon team is going to be special.
Yeah, I think for me, 2 weeks in Jordan Love, I think the Packers are going to be just fine. I know it's a small sample size, but you can see already that the game doesn't seem too fast for him. Take a mistake twice. I think you get to be very happy with what you have at the quarterback position. And I think Jeff's spot on. If they had a decent running game or were able to keep away from the Atlanta team, they would have won the game. Because you're right, Ashmere. They put a little bit too much on Jordan Love in the second half, expecting him to throw them to victory. And that didn't work out. And Jeff absolutely right. Falcons have a lot of great young pieces, man. Drake London. You have the high draft pick at running back. Kyle Pitts, people forget, highest drafted tight end of all time, I want to say, in the NFL. Definitely still a guy who's trying to fight and battle back from injuries. So I think if you're Atlanta, you feel really good about yourself right now and your team, what you saw. You just want everything together. You need 4 quarters of football that way. And I think if you're Green Bay, one got away from you.
It's funny we're talking about two teams that we know are not going to win their divisions, the Falcons and the Cardinals, but they're still playing football that is worth talking about against teams that we are very focused on, right? We're all very focused on the Giants. We're all very focused on the Packers. I think not having any first downs in the fourth quarter is not a key to success. You're not going to win games like that. And that's exactly what happened. And it's unfortunate because, like I mentioned, Jordan Love was owning that game. It was Packers all day. It was looking like it was going to rain green and gold by the end. And then just to lose by a point, just to kind of fall apart in the fourth quarter, very unfortunate. Desmond Ridder, though, I mean, I think he is – both these guys, Ridder and Dobbs, are just making names for themselves against – we're against junior teams. I'm just going to call – Packers have the youngest offense, right, in the league. So you're playing against a bunch of guys your own age. But it's still worth commenting and bringing up because I feel like the way that Ridder played, there was that one crazy deep pass, which I'm going to pull up. And I feel like having the confidence to complete something like that, that's major to me. I'm going to show the pass.
Spoken to Matt LaFleur, but he wanted us to send a couple jabs his way. Some trickery from Arthur Smith. Ridder going deep for Hollins. He's got it.
At this point, energy's high, right? It's loud in that stadium. And once you get your fans in, you're going to win the game. And that's exactly what happened from this point. So kudos to the Falcons. I'm not expecting much more than a 4-game winning season, exactly as I said for the Cardinals. I think the more senior team that we're going to turn to with two guys that have been in the league for a long time, but still such a crazy turnout, Seattle and the Lions. We're hyping up your boy, Jared Goff, the entire Thursday night football game, lit the NFL world on fire, and then turns around and has a couple mistakes against Seattle and ends up losing that game. Now they're both 1-1. I'm wondering, what do you think is going to be that light for Lions? What's going to spark them up in week 3?
I think the Lions are in the same boat as the NBA Packers were. It's another game you let get away, a mistake here or there. I mean, obviously, people always say football is a game of inches, and it sounds corny, but it's really the truth. And I think if you're Detroit Lions, you can pretty much go down to 1 or 2 plays where if you made those plays in a positive fashion instead of a negative fashion, you could have won that game. Not to mention, definitely holding the last play of the game on Hutchinson that wasn't called, but that's another show for a different day when we talk about refs and their lack of paying attention. But I think if you're Detroit, again, you got to feel pretty good about the way you started your season so far. I think that, Jared Goff made a couple mistakes this last game, but Goff is showing those Rams tendencies in a positive way when he went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. I think that defense is tenacious. Lost one of their key players in the back end to an injury. Will be out for a couple of weeks. So I have to see if that defense can make up for his loss. But I think if I'm Detroit, a lot to build off of on the positive side to make yourselves 2-1 really quickly.
Yeah. I think Detroit was who we saw, the same team against the Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't make plays to beat them, otherwise they'd be 0-2. So Seattle just happened to step up and make those plays. It's the team we expected to see week 1 from Seattle, but didn't see, right? They came out there, they struggled. Geno couldn't get it going. The defense couldn't get stops. And they went out there and struggled week 1, but then this week they came out and made plays when they needed to. They were talking about bad calls. How about that bad intentional grounding call on Geno Smith? But it's clear the guy punched the route off. And the ref throws the flag for intentional grounding. I mean, listen, we can go all day on referees. As a person who deals with referees on 3 different levels, trust me, we can go all day on referees. But some calls are just really, really egregious, and that's one of them. We're going to talk about PI calls because that's a whole nother story, and holding calls. But I mean, when you see it, refs have to understand the game of football if you're going to enforce the rules. You just can't get a guy that says, "Well, the rule says this." If you understand a guy cutting a route off, you don't throw the flag for intentional grounding. That actually had a bearing on how the end of the game went. Because
absolutely.
Seattle was driving. So it's one of those things where, once again, we talk about refs and how they impact the game. This game was impacted by a couple of calls. That's one I think people tend to forget.
No, it's great that you called attention to it because I agree. I think that was a huge momentum changing moment for Seattle. And just, heading into overtime, getting that first possession. I don't know about you guys, but I know that I don't really love the overtime rules. So just the fact that Lions didn't even have a chance, to battle. When in the Colorado State game, we're watching them go back and forth. Obviously, we could have been watching that Lions-Seattle game for a while because it was a back and forth offense heavy game. So I think also we need to remember Lions are taking on the Falcons in week 3. And just recapping how we were talking about the Falcons, I'm curious, how do you see Detroit kind of demolishing, I feel like, to make a statement? How is that going to be possible?
I'll let you go first on that one, Jeff. I gather my thoughts about that. It's a good matchup.
I don't know if they're going to. I think it's going to be another tough game. I think the way Detroit's style of play, it's hard for them to blow out opponents, right? Defensively, they're more of a conservative bend but don't break. So they allow a lot of yards. They tend not to allow a lot of points because they try to be pretty stout in the red zone. But I don't see them really blowing a lot of teams away. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be in a lot of heartbreaking losses and post-pounding wins because just the style of play. If they can be consistent running the football, that's one of the biggest things for the Lions. Because realistically, that's what they want to do to kind of slow the pace of the game down. But when you have Jared Goff throwing as many times as he did, he's about 28 or 35. They want to keep that a little on the lighter, high side of the 20s, less into the 30s. I think 35 is right on the cusp of being way too much for him to throw the football if you want to play the style of play that the Lions prefer to do. So I think their style of play is kind of what leads them into these kind of post-pounding, heartbreaking kind of games. And going up against Atlanta, as we saw, it's going to be another one of those barn burners we're going to be watching at the end of the day.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Atlanta's defense early on, it's only 2 games, but they're 2-0, so we got to respect that. But they also have a pretty highly ranked defense early on this season, so it'll be a good matchup. I mean, like Ashmere talked about, Desmond Ridder kind of showed us some things in this last game. Can he carry that on to this next game? I mean, how big would it be for Atlanta to possibly be 3-0? That'd be huge news in the league. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I think that also having David Montgomery not playing for Detroit, branding back, your rookie out of Alabama, you drafted high for a reason. This is a guy that can hurt you rushing, hurt you passing. I kept on saying, not just because he's on my fantasy team, because I think he's a good player. They need to give Gibbs some more opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see him finally get some chances to get some rushes, have him line up in the slot, have him match some screen passes. Just get your playmakers the ball in space and see what they can do. It's going to be a fun game. And like I said, I never would have thought Atlanta would have a chance to be 3-0.
I feel it's going to be a heavy running game simply because Bijan Robinson cannot be stopped. The Lions defense is strong, but I mean, watching him play these first 2 games has been unreal. If you are playing fantasy football and you drafted him in the first round, good job, because I didn't know if I was going to trust him coming in this early, coming in that high, but he has proven everybody to show he is exactly who that guy is. So I feel like you're saying, Jeff, a little less passing just based off of the possibility of throwing an interception and a lot more rushing. Wrapping things up here, we had 2 calls that were very controversial in week 2, and I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about them. So the first one was the Broncos-Commanders game. Russell Wilson completes that crazy Hail Mary, then they go for a 2-point conversion, which is stopped by the Commanders defense. Now, Joe, I know you're a Commanders fan, but you gotta be real, unbiased here, and let me know, did you think that was a PI or not? I wish I could show the clip, but if you haven't seen it, just check it out.
Yeah, on the second time I watched it, in the heat of the moment, of course I didn't think of it. I watched it 2 or 3 times in the replay. Yeah, it was pass interference. But I mean, once again, like we talked about, referees in the NFL are probably some of the ones out of all professional sports leagues need to get a refresher and improve the most of all the leagues we watch. Definitely pass interference. And I mean, watching it a second time after watching it in real time, it should have been really easy for them to realize it was pass interference. So, I mean, that's a huge blown call. But I still think the Hutchinson holding call was even worse.
Yeah, it's pass interference. There's no doubt about it. Should they have called it? Probably. I know there's times in a game where the refs are just going to let you ball out. Whatever happens, happens. My problem with it is you want consistency. You don't get consistency with referees. That's the biggest issue. If you had a consistent call for holding, if you had a consistent call for pass interference, both offensive and defensive, because offensive pass interference is the one that they get wrong 75% of the time. They can't call it right or wrong. They don't know what to call. So I think when you talk about pass interference, one of the biggest issues you have is timing of the play. If it's a bang-bang play, it's hard for the guy to see it when it happens. It's always great to see it in hindsight on replay. But if it's really, really close, this wasn't that close that he should have caught this. All right, so this is one of those situations where you want to see the flag thrown, you want to see this called down the middle, you want to see the opportunity for a team to get this play done right on the field, as opposed to having a mistake like that and it costs a team a game. You never want it to come down to an official costing a team.
100%. I agree with that. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Second one we got Monday night.
I kept on screaming to the Commanders, bat it down. Why did the Hail Mary pass should never been completed? That's like football 101. I can hear my coach screaming on the sideline, bat it down, bat it down.
I've been that DB you get overexcited for an interception in any circumstances. Trust me.
The opportunity arises. You're going to try to take advantage of it. Monday night, Browns and Steelers, 4th and 10. Deshaun Watson's only got one guy open and another PI attempt. And I think that one is clear as day. Okay, both of them are. Jeff, hit it back. You agree? Should have been a PI?
With that one, I'm leaning more towards defensive holding.
Okay.
Because the kind of grab happens a little bit earlier and then he does let go. But it's more of a defensive holding because it happens past 5 yards. He does grab the inside of the shoulder pad and then he lets let go. So I'm leaning more towards holding than DPI. I think the one gray area of it all is if you're going to count it because of the balls in the air or not. To me, it was more defensive holding. It's a clear grab down the field past 5 yards. You got to call that if you're an official. Now, once again, here's where we come back to officiating. The guy behind is not going to see that grab because it's in front of the player. It's on the front part of the jersey. The guy that's on the front side of that play should see it and throw the flag. He doesn't. So, once again, consistency is what we're talking about with officiating. 2 guys on the same sideline, front and back angles. You can't tell when the ball's caught or not because they got to come together and have a meeting whether the guy caught the ball, whether both feet were in, right? So, here you have it. I'm looking dead at the guy grabbing in the front of the jersey. I'm not calling it. The guy in the back can't see it. You get no call. Game over. All right. So to me, it was more defensive holding because it happens past 5 yards. It was a grab. He does let it go, but it's a grab past 5 yards. But it still results in a first down for the offense. So it should. Maybe not defensive pass interference should have been called, but definitely defensive holding should have been called. Sure.
We needed a flag on the play. Okay, I think that is definitely agreeable.
Nah, for sure. I definitely thought it was holding more than pass interference. That was my first inclination when I watched the replay. And I mean, one of the great things that Mike Patton brought up in the chat is referees don't all have the same angles. But I would come back and say that's why there's more than one ref on the field. You guys come together and, hey, have a conversation because you might have seen something I didn't see. But I definitely agree with Jeff. It was definitely holding, and a flag of some kind should have been thrown during that play. For them to throw no flag at all, they're not doing themselves any favors when there's people bashing referees on socials when you're missing calls like that, especially in critical times of the game like that was.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the entire game was chaos. I felt like there was a lot happening. We had the Chubb injury. So Yeah. It was all 2 games, 4 teams of that Monday night, I feel like started off chaos. Derek Carr doing as Derek Carr does, throwing interceptions. Come on, man. I just can't deal with that. I'm going to throw a little toss up here. Baker Mayfield is 2-0, and he's with this new team, Bucks. Mike Evans is raw. I feel like he deserves his own show and segment. curious, are you a believer, a Baker believer? Are you gonna think that this is gonna carry through the season? What's it looking like?
Haven't been that I get a chance to cover the Bucks. I'm not a total believer. I'm gonna tell you what I see in Baker Mayfield. I seen him play 2 quality games. The first game he did a little bit less. This one he did a lot more. But the Bears defense isn't playing very well right now. He did enough for them to win. A lot of blown coverages, a lot of mistakes by the Bears. They're playing very well defensively. I think that's the main thing about it. And of course, like we said, kind of helps that you're playing the Bears this week. What happened in Minnesota was a guy who gritted that team to a win. He's given that team the confidence and the ability to believe they can win. So they're going to be a lot tougher than a lot of people thought. I had them at 6 to 7 wins this year. They may push for 8 to 9. Because there's going to be a certain point in the schedule where it all comes to a head. You're going to play better opponents, tougher opponents, maybe some division opponents that give you a hard time. And I think that's where they're going to have their struggles. But right now, this defense is playing pretty decent. They still have some pitfalls you got to worry about. This offense is playing admirably. They're playing to the strength of their quarterback right now, but when he struggles and this running game isn't exactly overly lighting it up right now, and you have to do a lot more, that's going to be the question. Right now, they're leading in games. They're setting the pace. That's why they're winning so far. That's why they're 2-0. It's the question will be is when they have to fall behind and then catch up, play to the strength of Baker Mayfield. Will we see the Baker Mayfield that struggles?
Yeah, I think if you're Tampa Bay and you want to continue the success, you've got to figure out a way to figure out that running game, make the running game positive. You do not want to rely on Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game in order to win. You've got to make the running game at least be a threat to keep the opposing defense honest. I think so far, yeah, I'm riding with Baker Mayfield so far in the season, 2 games in. I mean, you got to remember, he was the #1 draft pick overall for a reason. There wasn't a lot of great moments in Cleveland. There was those moments where you saw some sparks of greatness, took this team to the playoffs. So he's not a horrible quarterback. I think we expected a lot more. I know I did when he went to Carolina last year. Got up in his face, and he ended up going to the Rams and being okay with the Rams. So I think it's a really good solid start for him. But if Tampa Bay thinks they can really make the season something more than people thought it was going to be, you've got to figure out a way to get a consistent running game. Without that running game, this is going to be short-lived success.
So they're taking on the Eagles Monday night. And I think that it could be a competitive matchup if Rachaad White has 2 rushing touchdowns, right? Can we all agree with that?
They got to have something.
Against that Eagles pass rush?
Yeah, we're going to find out how good Tampa Bay's offensive line is real quick.
Yeah, this is going to be a different animal. This is not going to be Minnesota. This is not going to be the Bears defense. This is going to be the Eagles defense, which can rush the passer. They can do a lot against the run. They have one of the best interiors of a defense in this league. One of the weaknesses of the Bucs, the interior offensive line. So, yeah, it's going to be a really, really rough matchup for the Bucs this week. This is one of those matchups where you really want to watch and see. This is going to be a measuring stick.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to find out if Baker's really improved or not very quickly in this game, or it could be the same old Baker. This is going to get ugly very fast because Philadelphia's legit.
Yeah, I feel like facing a Super Bowl team is never easy, and the Eagles are definitely running it back, and I agree. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, if they can't protect him up the middle.
Pretty much.
It's going to be a downhill doozy, that's for sure. Should we hit some predictions? If I pull up a couple games and see what you guys are.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
All right. Quick runoff here. Let's hit it with. Joe, your boys, the Bills and the Commanders.
Oh, man, we're playing at home, sold out stadium. Josh Allen doesn't know if he wants to be a running back or a quarterback. Washington.
I'm going to go with the Bills in this one. And the reason being is I think they're starting to get a little bit more of that swag back that they didn't have against the Jets. When you came out against the Jets, we saw Josh Allen struggle. We saw the Jets have the right recipe. Some reason the Jets, who have beaten them the last couple of years, have the mix to beat Josh Allen. I don't think the Commanders have it. You're not going to come back on this team as easily as you have the last 2 weeks with the other opponents. They'll make it a game, though. This ain't going to be a blowout, but I definitely going to take the Bills in this one.
Okay, everyone's favorite, the Rams and the Bengals. Is Joe Burrow playing or what?
Yeah, that's going to say the question right there.
Isn't. Yeah, this you got to worry about this, right? We've seen the Rams come out and play some really good football. They go out there and win week 1. They gave the Niners hell last week, and it almost took out the Niners. Now you get the Bengals coming in there who are playing like the Bungles of old right now. So you really have to really look at this and go, I like the Rams, because that Bengal team right now is no bueno.
Yeah, I'm with Jeff. I have to go against it. Go with the Rams. 2 receivers who I don't know their names, but I know they're ballers. So without Cooper Kupp, those 2 guys have definitely stepped up. I know one's a second-year player, one's a rookie. Will Matt Stafford trust you to catch plays in critical moments, and they're making those plays? I go Rams.
Okay, I disagree. I think the Bengals are going to wake up.
Ooh.
I think Jamar and Joe Burrow are sitting in their living rooms right now talking about how they cannot win the division, the entire AFC. Once again, they got to run it back. So final game, because I feel like this is the most controversial, Patriots and Jets. That's a hard one.
The Mac Jones Bowl, huh? So yeah, you have the Jets coming off of their beating by the Cowboys. You have 0-2 desperate Patriots. I'm going to go New England on this one. I think New England's desperate enough to pull this off. I think the biggest issue for New England are turnovers. Right, Zeke Elliott turning the ball over week 1. They've had other fumbles. I think their biggest issue are turnovers. If they could, kind of tighten up things, controlling the football and offense, playing the defense the Patriots are known to play, I think they'll be all right against the Jets. I think the Jets right now, they got away with one with Buffalo. They got a pretty good beating in Dallas. Right now, they still got to figure out how to score enough points to win. I think the Patriots can do that. It's a tough defense they're going against. The good thing is the Patriots don't have a number 1 wide receiver, so they don't have to worry about Sauce shutting down somebody. He may just shut down. But they don't have a number 1 wide receiver, so you don't have to force the ball on one guy. But I think the Patriots, if they can do what they do best, throw the ball to those tight ends, work the wide receivers on some of those crossing routes off play action, run the ball effectively, don't put it on the ground, and I think you'll pull this victory out.
Yeah, I have to go to New England. I've left the bandwagon a long time ago of Zach Wilson. I thought he was the next coming. He's shown. Yeah, I knew the laughing sound effect was coming from somewhere sooner or later. We saw what happened in Dallas. One good play to Wilson. Some of us thought maybe that was the spark. It wasn't the spark. It was just a flash in the pan. I think New England wins this game, and the whole Bill Belichick, are you elite, not elite without Tom Brady conversation can kind of calm down for one more week. But I think it wins this game.
I think we've all seen that Zach Wilson is not that guy, and I'm sure the Jets are shopping around while we speak, and I'm very curious to see what will happen in week 5, 6, who's going to be under center in that green jersey. This was fun, guys. I'm very excited that we talked about these teams. We talked about a bunch of teams that are just doing well, playing good football, and winning games in weird fashion. So catch us for next week's games. We're going to talk about, the week 3 projections on Sunday. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I am Ashmere with Jeff and Joe, and be sure to follow Team MBS Media on all social platforms. And have a great evening, everyone.
See you next time.